This is Tim McMaster and Connor Hughes from the Can't Wait podcast, a show about the New York Jets, who are now 0-11, and Adam Gase, still the head coach. Looks like he's going to make it through to the season, but the excuses are gone. Sam Darnold back at quarterback on Sunday. The team had its full allotment of receivers, and Darnold was still bad. The team scored 3 points. Connor, there's nothing for Gase to blame at this point.
No, Gase or Sam. I think it's both of those guys. I mean, the one thing that we've been told over and over and over again from Adam and from Sam and from Christopher and from Joe and from anyone who has opened their mouth over at One Jets Drive to explain the disaster that this team has become, it's been patience. Just wait. You know, at the beginning of the season, it was, this team has Sam Darnold on the offensive line, but all of the receivers are hurt. You know, how can Sam and Adam possibly build an effective offense when you're throwing to Josh Malone and Jeff Smith and Braxton Berrios? You can't, right? So you just got to wait for the receivers to get back. The receivers finally get back in there, but then Sam goes out. Well, Sam's out. He's our starting quarterback. We've got Joe Flacco. We can kind of keep the ship afloat, but you're not going to see the true offense until Sam gets back. Then Sam gets back, but then a couple more receivers drop off. You see Jamison Crowder hurts his groin again. Perriman has the concussion, so then he's out. Then those receivers finally, but then Sam's out. So this Sunday against the Dolphins, we finally got a chance to see the Jets offense as complete as it's been all year. Chris Herndon, hand in the dirt, all that newfound confidence after catching a touchdown against the Chargers and that nice back shoulder throw. Sam healed up from the shoulder injury. He's back out there. You got Denzel Mims split wide. Perriman split wide, Crowder's in the slot. The offensive line's still a little banged up, but you still have your key cog pieces there in Becton and McGovern and all that. So you've got the offense looking like what the offense is supposed to look like, what it's been supposed to look like. This is it. You know, you saw what Joe Flacco did against the Patriots and Chargers where things look competent. Sam's supposed to come in, better quarterback than Flacco, pick up right where Flacco left off and show that he is the franchise quarterback they imagined when they drafted him 3 years ago. And instead, what we got was 4 quarters of incompetence, 4 quarters of slop, 4 quarters of taking all of the progress that the Jets had made the last 2 weeks and going all the way back to the worst game of the season they had when they lost 24-0 to the Dolphins back in October. Sam finished with under 200 passing yards again for the 5th time in 7 games. He failed to throw a touchdown for his 4th consecutive start. He threw again 2 interceptions where they were just mind-bogglingly dumb decisions, where he's throwing on the run across his body into double coverage to Jamison Crowder instead of finding Mims wide open over the middle, staring down his target, who's covered by Xavier Howard, one of the best corners in the league, then throwing a telegraph pass right to his gut. I mean, everything that you hoped to see from Sam Darnold, it was nothing. I mean, Sam Darnold with all his weapons looked exactly the same as Sam Darnold without all his weapons. And it's to the point now, Tim, where when we were discussing the Jets quarterback situation in October, in September, when the Jets started kind of piling up losses, we're like, you know what? This team might actually be in contention for the number 1 pick in the draft. Ha, ha, ha. Look how hard their schedule is. We always said it was Trevor Lawrence or Darnold. If they found a way to get the number 1 pick, you had to get Trevor Lawrence, generational passer. But if they're number 2, you trade it. If you're number 3, you draft Lamar Chase, the wideout from LSU. You continue to build around Sam. I'll be honest, Tim, I've seen enough. I have seen enough from Sam Darnold this year. I have seen enough from Sam Darnold the last 3 years. In his 33rd start, there is nothing that you can hang your hat on to say this guy should be the quarterback in 2021. It is not anymore Trevor Lawrence or bust. It is get a quarterback wherever you are picking. If that's Lawrence number 1, you draft Lawrence. If that's Fields number 2, you draft Fields, because Sam Darnold is not the answer.
And obviously, Adam Gase is not the answer either. And those lack of excuses go with him as well. And he makes things worse sometimes when he speaks after the game in the press conference. It just got all confusing as far as the play calling goes between him and Dowell Loggins. And he was obvious during the game that he was at least a fair share of the calls. He was making them. At least that's what it looked like. And then after the game, he kind of denies that. I mean, none of this makes it easier, Connor, where he could have just had a very simple answer for that.
Yeah, he should have just said it's a cumulative, it's a collaborative effort. He should have just said we're both calling plays, because that's what it was. Adam Gase calls some plays, Dowell Loggins calls some plays. It's not always Dowell reading the plays into Adam. There's situations where Dowell calls, there's situations Adam calls. I mean, it is both of those guys calling plays. I think there was probably some anger in Gase's voice after that game. And the one team in the NFL that he hates losing to, the one where he just does not want to lose to, more than anything else is the Dolphins. He kind of left on not great terms with the Broncos because they moved on from that whole John Fox era, but still, he had a lot of success there with Peyton Manning. He went to a Super Bowl. In Chicago, he had a really good season with Jay Cutler and then arrived in Miami as the offensive genius and the next great offensive mind. So there aren't really any sour spots from past coaching regimes that Adam Gase has had, except for the Dolphins. That's the one where he and ownership did not get along. He and management did not get along. They needed to get away from each other. And for him to lose the first time they played the Dolphins, 24-0, for them to go into this game feeling like we finally got all our weapons. We got Sam. We have a game plan we know can work. And to lose 20-3, I mean, he was on edge emotionally. He was tense. He was mad. And I'm sure the last thing he wanted to do was start to go into the intricacies of how the plays are called for the Jets. Oh, I call this, Dow calls that. This is how it works. So unfortunately, he got on edge a little bit and sounded off, and it seemed like he was lying. But the one thing you can say about Adam Gase, and I've gotten a chance to know him over the last 2 years, the guy's not a liar. He doesn't lie. He's honest. You can always get the truth out of him, whether it's in a press conference setting or when you pull him off from the side of the podium. Unfortunately, he came out wrong. We'll talk to him at some point on Monday when he does his press conference. I'm sure he'll provide more information, but it's clearly a collaborative play calling effort where Dow calls some, Adam calls some, and honestly, you can probably throw a third person in there to start calling plays because what's happening so far this year for an 0-11 team, nothing is working.
Thank you for listening. The Athletic is the world's fastest growing sports media publication. Get in-depth sports stories you can't find anywhere else. Visit theathletic.com/Google to join for just $1 a month through December 4th and ask your Google Assistant to play the latest episode of the Can't Wait podcast.